Call the regular meeting of the Waverly City Council to order on Monday, August 20th, 2018. Roll call, please.
Bergen.
Here.
Drinkow.
Present.
Kangas. Here. McKenzie.
Here.
Rothy. Here. Scherer.
Present.
Waldstein. Here.
All present and accounted for. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any questions about it? Comments? Not. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried. Yes, council person for the month of August is Ann Segerman. And Ann, if you have some words that you'd like to impart to us, that would be fine.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me. This is my first time as a guest council person. I'm on the utility board, a Waverly native. My husband, Rich, works at Wartburg. We have 3 kids. One is still at home, going to be a sophomore this week. And I'm just excited to be here. Thanks.
Thank you. Next item is some city staff introductions. I get the privilege of introducing them because Bill Werger, city attorney, is on vacation this week, and city administrator had some surgery this morning and is off for a few days. So first one is Rachel Leitz, the new zoning administrator and code enforcement officer. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Rachel.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So my name is Rachel Leitz. I am a Wartburg graduate from 2014. Since graduation, I moved back up to Minneapolis, where I am originally from, and have been working at the city of Hugo, which currently is a population of 15,000, but an expected population of 40,000 by 2040. So I'd worked there for 3.5 years in their planning department. Similar size staff, a little different growth rate, but had been looking forward to getting back to this area and was very excited that this position came available. So I'm excited to work with and for the city of Waverly.
Very good, thank you. Welcome to our little group that calls this place home. Next person is Abby Miller. She's the new Human Resources Manager.
Thank you. Yes, Abby Miller. Rachel and I have been here this is our 4th week now, so we still feel like we're getting into things. My experience prior to taking this position, I worked at Waverly Health Center for 7 years in their HR department, and then prior to that, I worked at Allen Hospital in their HR department. So right around 10 years of HR experience. Began to love Waverly when I started working at the health center. There's great people here. I've had to share my time with the school, which has been great, kicking off orientation and stuff. So I'm looking forward to it.
Very good, thank you. Welcome aboard. The HR position is a 60-40, I believe, shared position with the Waverly Shell Rock school system. So Abby will be in and out and about. Next item is public comments for items not on the agenda. So anyone have something they would like to speak with us? Yes, sir. If you'd come up to the podium, name and address.
My name is William Ranney, and I live on 515 East Bremer Avenue. I just wanted to take the time to address you, Mayor, and the council tonight to let you know how grateful I am about the hard decision you made last week to approve the move to 3 lanes on Bremer Avenue. And I wanted to go a little farther and tell you a couple of reasons of why I'm glad that you made that decision, if you'll so entertain me. A couple things you should know about me. I am married to Dr. Fadley, who works at Wartburg, and that's my daughter, Micah. She's 4 years old, and we live right across from Quick Star, so we live at the beginning of the project, and we have to drive to the end of the project every day. And so not only are we invested in that way, my wife also has tenure at Wartburg, so the odds of us traveling that every day for the rest of our lives is pretty high. So needless to say, I'm invested. And so I went to all the early meetings. I went and I looked at the IDOT proposal and all the information that they gave, and I did my own independent research. And, you know, I think IDOT did a really good job. I think their evidence is overwhelming. I think they have vast expertise, and I think that they're us. They're, you know, somebody said online that, you know, IDOT, they're not from around here. They should go back to wherever they're from. But we have an IDOT facility right on the outside of town, right? So these people are our neighbors, they're friends. We know some of these people, and they're experts at what they do. Now, that's all fine and good, but the reason that really gets me motivated about this project has everything to do with my daughter, who's 4 and will grow up on this road. With 3 lanes, instead of having to judge 2 directions of traffic, 2 lanes each going different speeds while she's crossing the street, she'll only have to judge 1 each way, and she'll know who's turning left because they'll be in a left turn lane. And that's important because we just have crosswalks on our side of town. We'd have to go pretty far to get to a light. And so I feel pretty good about that. When she gets older and she becomes a driver, if she happens to make a mistake in an intersection or if somebody else does, she'll have more room to maneuver and to get out of any dangerous situation, which I was listening to loud and clear when IDOT said that because I know that she's going to be a driver someday in this town. And along that vein also, I'm happy that she is going to be forced to drive in a steady stream of traffic in 1 lane and not encouraged to try to pass people or try to speed. And I'm also happy about the fact that she's still going to be able to do so efficiently. There's a lot of misconceptions about this, but one of the things that I learned that hit home is that when you have dedicated left turn lanes, those lanes get to go at the same time in the light sequence, meaning your odds of being able to go through town without hitting a light go up. And so when Micah has to go to the middle school or when she has to go to the high school, her odds of getting to those places is going to be about the same time as it currently is. And so there's a lot of other things we can mention. I could mention there's some people that are concerned about response times, and you know, the jury's still out on that, but it just strikes me a little weird because with safety vehicle response times, because the IDOT kind of proved to me that their project is going to provide the town with more safety. And I think it's kind of, and they gave me a lot of evidence, and when I don't really see a lot of evidence on the other side. And so if you're going to make an argument for safety, I think IDOT did it pretty succinctly. And then I guess the final thing that I'd like to do is, and a little bit of audience participation, if you're in favor of 3 lanes, will you raise your hand just so that we can get an idea that there are people here that are in favor of this? Thank you. And we're not always the most outspoken group, but we do exist and we are around, and we are grateful for your decision and for your support of this change. Thank you.
Very good, thank you.
Well, Mayor, Council, my name's Carolina Wilson. I live at 602 First Avenue Northeast, and I wasn't sure Will was going to be here, so I had prepared myself to speak. I'm not as eloquent as him, but I've been to several of the meetings that you've had, and also when the IDOT was here, I came across the street there, across the hallway there, and I too agree and thank you for the position that you took. I appreciated the last meeting, the discussion that you had, and how each of you spoke that you had thought about it, and you had thought about what is the best for the citizens of Waverly. And most of you said it was because of safety. And that is what we want, is safety for the citizens of Waverly. I don't have a little one like Will does, but I know a lot of little ones. And that is very important for our children, that we have a safe street. And I thank you for taking that stand, even though it probably is not that popular at the time. It was not. But as you can see by the hands being held up, there are several of us that are in favor of the 3 lanes, and we thank you for your vote.
Very good, thank you.
Barb Lutz, First Street Southeast, and I'd like to just reiterate what was just said, and that I support what the council did. Appreciate the thoughtfulness and the research and the vote to go to 3 lanes. Thanks.
Thank you, Barb. Yes, sir.
Jim Addy, 306 12th Street Northeast. I'm here representing myself and not representing the Waverly Health Center. First of all, I would like to just recognize and let you know that you guys got a superstar in Abby. She worked at the hospital for some time, and she was a wonderful person that we were sad to see go, but we're happy that she's still here serving the people of Waverly. Regardless of my opinion on 3-lane, 4-lane, I want to say thank you. I believe that this council did a very good job of taking into consideration multiple sides, taking into consideration data, and making what they felt was the right decision. So again, regardless of how I feel about your decision, I feel honored and blessed that you listened and that you took into consideration more than just one side, more than just one fact, and came to a consensus or close to a consensus. So I appreciate everything that you've done, and I appreciate you doing it in the face of some heavy negativity. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Jim. Anyone else?
Set a record for
Calvin James Corson, Waverly, Iowa, 100 Augusta Circle, Ward 1. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members, staff, of which there's one here, except for those at the table. May I respectfully encourage you all to listen to the citizens that you represent in your wards and community. We have many challenges ahead of us to maintain and enhance the quality of life in Waverly. The most important, I believe, right now is maintain. It's no simple task, but it can be made easier for you and the citizens you represent by allowing us to make a better Waverly. After all, you have been elected to listen to your citizen constituents in making the decisions that affect each and every one of us. You have accepted that responsibility and have a duty to report back to the council on your input from those who elected you. Please do not vote your opinions and desires over those you represent. In this way, the people have indeed spoken and the pressure is off. Being a lifetime citizen of Waverly, with parents, grandparents, and even great-grandparents who are also lifetime citizens of Waverly, I realize that change is inevitable, but reaction to said change must be driven by the citizens to aid the actions and responses by our council representatives. Make your jobs of passion equal to those of ours. Please communicate the behind-the-scenes facts and data that sometimes we don't hear about. The citizens of Waverly have now been forced to become the data diggers, fact finders, and statisticians when we should be simply enjoying the fruits of our labor. We have been forced, if you will, to become the 8th member of the council, trying to sway you on our wants and needs as opposed to living in harmony with the decisions that we helped you make. Please do not take us out of the equation. It will indeed make your lives and ours much more enjoyable. I request that each council person establish a ward at-large email where you can ask the citizens you represent of said ward or community how they feel, what can be done better for our city, and how should you vote on our behalf. Share the burden of decision-making with us, the ones being affected by those decisions, Share what you know, and we can share what we know. After all, this is our community, yours and mine. We are all empowered to make a difference, and we will. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Cal. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. Matthew Schneider, Waverly resident. Very concerned Waverly resident. By the way, it is great to see all the three-lane supporters here. Too bad we couldn't talk a few weeks ago. I didn't see those people a few weeks ago. But it should come as no surprise that I was upset to learn that I was pulled from the agenda. It was brought up in these chambers several times that those who supported 4 lanes did not bring data. W. Edwards Deming once said, "Without data, you're just another person with an opinion." I think he was somewhat right. And this is why I brought data to the council chambers prior to the vote and why I asked for a veto of the 3-lane resolution. There were several items that stood out as being very questionable in the data provided by the DOT, not to mention the resolution not even being factual and saying, quote, "No deterioration in service would take place in the level of service at intersections and that there would be no increase in traffic delays." This was not the same information that was provided in the WHKS study. Also, according to the DOT presentation made on July 16th, Mr. Little stated in his presentation that bike lanes are not under construction, but the resolution states safety buffers can accommodate bicycles. So yes, we have bike lanes. I presented in public comment at the last meeting the least squares approximation formula for exponential growth, and the purpose of presenting that was to point out that the DOT, according to that formula, and on the slide on page 30 of the DOT presentation, that the crash rate would be reduced by 19%. This is in line with crash reduction rates in the most comparable cities of Manchester, which saw a 27% reduction in crash rates, and Indianola, which was a 17% reduction in crash rates. It was disappointing to learn that Mr. Little dismissed that data in the Waverly newspaper that I presented, and perhaps he wasn't aware that he was dismissing his own data. Mr. Little's talking points seem to stick to a crash rate reduction of up to 50%. This 50% number is not the number of reductions expected in a matched pair comparison. In research, matched comparisons are critical, and when matched comparisons are not used, the data is not accurate. The resolution states proposed 3-lane geometry has cut the crash rate by as much as 50% in other communities. Though that is factual, it is misleading as Waverly is not a matched pair to those other communities in the study. So this is very confusing and misleading to the public. In research, matched pairs are important, and if you don't have matched pairs, data is pretty much worthless. For example, independence was brought out by council as an example for improvement of emergency response time with 3-lane geometry. It was also brought up on the internet by this fictitious Anna Reid that keeps floating around. Independence ADT in volume per hour per direction are about 30% less than Waverly, according to DOT numbers. But even more important, Independence converted from a 2-lane to a 3-lane geometry. And after speaking to my uncle, who has a law firm directly located right in front of this highway, he said that this was a welcome change for citizens and did indeed improve conditions. And I could further conclude and kind of assume that this would only serve to increase emergency response time, not decrease it. So Independence is not a match pair and very misleading. The day after the last council meeting, I put my family on an airplane so we could enjoy a vacation, but also so I could get in the field and study some of the misplaced road diets that appear to be an epidemic in this nation. I found volunteer firefighters that told me that flashing lights on a civilian vehicle are no match for an overcapacity road. We found Janice. Janice has been a waitress at the Pig and Pancake for 23 years. And she told us how she had to walk to work, which is a mile away because of the 3-lane configuration that jams up at peak volume. I told her, well, it's good exercise, and she gave me a really evil look. I found a development of housing for elderly citizens whose main corridor went on a road diet. This main corridor is over capacity and jams up daily, and is also the tsunami evacuation route for the city. When I asked, what are they supposed to do when a tsunami comes, the reply was, well, it's the only road we are told, it's the only road we have, so we're told to walk up the hill. So as an Iowan, I looked at the hill and it kind of looked like a mountain to me. And at that point, my stomach was sick, thinking how are we going to get the elderly people up that hill? I am asking council to review the data in the WHKS study and take immediate and appropriate action. Also, I've reached out to state officials and am seeking a moratorium on the implementation of all road diets in the state when emergency response time comes into question by local authorities. This implementation of road diets should not continue until we have a better understanding of the negative effects of emergency response time in relation to the level of service decreases like our own research shows that we will have. Of course, I'm also asking citizens to get answers to questions. And finally, I've reached out to the business community so we can start getting ahead of this mess. Regardless of Bremer being a 3 or 4 lane geometry, we're going to pull this business community together and get storefronts full and do so in a way that will bring the community together and increase the quality of life. And if we really pull together, I think in 25 years we'll be talking about moving our 4-lane configuration into a 5-lane configuration. I'm 100% positive that this can be done. As I mentioned before, it will simply take getting the wrong people out and the right people in the right place doing the right things for Waverly and not the right things for the special interest. And I do thank you all for your time.
Very good, thank you. Heidi, you have some.
Hello, I'm Heidi Solheim, 202 Summit Drive, and I just want to say that I'm here speaking purely for myself with no other agency that I work or volunteer with. I would really like to thank the council. I know the last several months have been very challenging, especially with some of the atmosphere that we have in our community. I was one of the individuals who chose to send emails to our city council members and to talk individually. It feels like we have kind of past the ability to be civil as a community and to have discussions openly, that it really resorts to just from your own personal well-being that you have to communicate privately. It's very hard in situations. Other people I know are covering the same thing where they want to be vocal, they want to speak out, but they don't want to go through a series where they're either bullied or they're almost harassed because of their opinion. So again, that really disappoints me as a community that I love and I'm trying to teach my children. I guess they're teenagers and college student now, so they probably don't appreciate being called a children. But you know, how do we want to function as a community? And I hope that we can open up discussions again where they can be civil, we can all speak without kind of fear of reprisal or knowing that you're going to be harassed or ridiculed on social media and other areas. But again, I really appreciate, especially city council members who have been recently, in my opinion, almost slandered for speaking and for holding what they think is right for our community now and in the future. So thank you very much. Thank you for serving, taking time away from your families and your occupations and your personal time to be here.
Good. Thank you, Heidi. Anyone else have some comments pertaining to any subject not on the agenda? Thank you all for your attendance, or for being here and your comments, and we'll move on to the consent calendar. Specifically, a pay request from Kramer and Associates Incorporated for the Cedar River Parkway East Improvements 2018 for $571,243.61. Pay request from Hawkins Incorporated for the updating and replacing of well house equipment for the water department for $16,219.74. A Class B liquor license for the Red Fox Renaissance Incorporated, and the cash disbursements for July 2018.
I will move the consent calendar.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Boy, all those in favor of the consent calendar say yes.
Yes. Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried. Regular business. Item number 1, a resolution 18-121, a resolution approving monetary support from the City of Waverly to the Waverly Volunteer Fire Association with hosting of the 2018 Iowa Firemen's Association Annual Convention. Mr. Hoppel.
Good evening, everybody. The convention is coming very soon here. We should be starting to fill up here in the next 2 weeks, and the impact will begin. And so the Firefighters Association would like to ask the council for support. Last, in 16, you contributed $7,700 to our cause as the convention. This year we've taken it down a notch to $5,000 and are asking for your support for the convention. Several of the items listed may or may not be charged to us as they were in 16. If they are not, we appreciate that. If they are, that money will help defray that cost. And if they are not charged to us, we will use that money wisely in our convention as we have more bills to pay than just those. So I would entertain any questions you may have.
So Dennis, you're asking for less money this time. Is this a less expensive event, or you guys just learn to be better stewards, or what's going on there?
It's not a less expensive event by any means. Last time we had a rock entrance that we had to install, and that was able to stay in place. And so that money was not needed for this round. We had a couple other items that we had negotiated with the city on, and quite frankly, since we got to keep it in the same place, and 2 years later, it's all still there. So, yeah, we don't need it, so we're not asking for it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Entertain a motion for request for funds from for the Volunteer Fire Association.
I'll move Resolution 18-121, a resolution approving monetary support in the amount of a one-time contribution of $5,000 from the City of Waverly to the Waverly Volunteer Fire Association with hosting the 2018 Iowa Firemen's Association Annual Convention.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Council discussion.
Mayor, if I could, just due to my relationship with the fire department, I'm going to abstain from the discussion as well as the vote tonight.
All right, very good. Any other discussion?
Well, we're missing Mr. Bronner and Mr. Werger, so I guess I'll ask the mayor this one.
Uh-oh.
Because I figure you probably know the answer. We're proposing to make the contribution from the Hotel Motel Tax Fund, which sounds appropriate to me. Will this diminish the fund in ways that cost, can we afford to take it from that fund, I guess is my question.
I don't think there's any real impact on that fund. That Carla's shaking her head that, and she may be in a better position to answer it than I am. So.
Well, Jenny probably is. But I will tell you that I actually helped Dennis kind of work out this resolution and whatnot, and the hotel motel tax seemed the most appropriate place to take it out of. However, it would require a budget amendment.
I will add that the weekend of the convention, there is not a motel room to be found in Waverly, so.
And part of that goes for tourism and things of which this would certainly fall under.
I think that makes sense, but I'm just going to ask some more clarifying questions since Carla mentioned budget. This is not part of the budget right now because it didn't come with the other requests that we got from organizations at the time of budget building. And in just looking at that and asking about what policies we have in place, I did notice that we have a motion that was approved in 1998 where we defined which organizations we support and what that process is. And my first read of that is that when we have approved this in the past, the last time that we weren't following the that motion. So, you know, again, Denny, nothing, nothing about this particular request or organization or individual, but I just want to make sure we're following due process, which I think we're obligated to do. So I'm just curious about that and would like some clarification from staff or the mayor.
You want to tackle it, Carla, or?
You can try. So when I was asked to find this motion, at the time, everyone thought it was a resolution. I was not able to find a resolution. However, it does in the minutes talk about a policy being set, and it was passed, I think it was unanimously.
7-0.
Yeah. So I tried to get a hold of Dick Crane, and he did email me back, but he recalled it happening, but he didn't recall the actions leading up to it. When I asked the mayor about it, he said that he felt like it was due to another committee that was repeatedly asked for money, but we didn't really have any answers as to how they spent that money. And so the council at that time felt like they needed to have some accountability, and that is why the council is on a particular committee that is supported, or that represents the city. So that's really about all the background I would have.
To clarify, this is the policy of if we give money, we have a seat or a say, at least a voice on the committee. To organizations.
So some other examples would be?
Waverly Senior Center, Heritage Days, the W. I can't think of any off the top of my head right now.
And we have we have city liaisons on those groups?
Yes, ma'am.
Where we've given the...
Would it be helpful to approve the request this round with, well, I guess I don't really know how to put this together because we don't know when the firefighters are coming back to Waverly. But if there was a way to put that into the budget for the future, it would be a little more orderly, I suppose. It's hard to anticipate in advance, I suppose, how to, who needs to be on the list.
Is that the only time, Denny, that the city has, or anybody, the city's contributed to the fire department is just during the convention?
You mean other than the budgeted?
Well, other than the budgeted items, of course.
Yeah, other than budgeted
Yeah.
items, I would have to say yes in my 10 years. Dan may have some further insight into that, but during my 10 years,
okay,
that's pretty much it. I'm not sure about the museum. I think that was a budgeted item at that time.
Okay.
I think it's just confusing because, 2 years ago, money was given, and then the policy, and I sit on the senior center board and the Heritage Days committees as the liaison, so, and I think, Mike, you're on did you do the W? Mm-hmm. So there is presence of council on these other committees, so it's a bit of a mixed history with what the council has done before.
I think the policy itself makes a lot of sense, or council would be bombarded with requests for funds for various organizations that we would then have to be continually amending the budget to come up with money for. So I think this policy makes a great deal of sense. I think that the request of the Fire Department Association is something that is certainly worthy, and I don't think there's any particular issue that I have that I would be opposed to that request. The one thing that I was wondering, and maybe someone can fill this in for me, as I'm reading this resolution, there is a sentence in there that says that funds may also be allocated to groups created by council resolution. I know that the association, the Firefighters Association, or forgive me for not having the correct name of it, but it was not necessarily created by council resolution, but the council, I believe, had to approve the Articles of Incorporation when it was originally incorporated. And I'm wondering if that would be something that we could hang our hat on, because it is it's not just a nonprofit that has no connection with the city. It is an organization that has a close connection with the city. The fire department is obviously a city organization and the members of the fire department, as I understand it, when they go out on calls, become temporary employees of the city while they're out on a call. I think there's a very close relationship involved there. I would have no problem going ahead and supporting this, and the idea that I don't think that this issue is really going to come up again with any other organization that has that same kind of history with the city. So I would definitely support this.
I think the only thing that makes me a bit uneasy about it is that one thing that seems different when I go to the Senior Center Commission or Heritage Days is the expenses and revenues are quite transparent. And so it seems like that's not the case with this organization, which makes me a bit uneasy. I'm not saying there's anything illegal about that, and from what I've read, certainly it's pretty common for volunteer fire departments to have this sort of nonprofit associated. But that is one difference is we don't quite know what the need is and what the revenues are for this event. But I agree there's a close relationship between the fire department. They certainly do good work. And there is a precedent to give money. I think it just made me realize that perhaps we need to clarify this for future budget discussions and perhaps make a window of when organizations come to us to seek funds and be clear.
Well, we already have that. We're supposed
we
to
sort
have,
of do have
supposed
that,
to have that, yeah.
Right, so just so that we can be consistent and not get inundated with organizations that might not have such close ties.
Right. We don't want to set a precedent that is something that we really don't want to do. I don't think that approving this would necessarily set that precedent. But I'm trying to think, and I've thought all afternoon of trying to think of another example of a situation where someone could come in and use this as a precedent to request money and I can't think of any, frankly.
Maybe can somebody on council help me, because my memory is incredibly bad. When Gentlemen of the Road came to town, did we provide funding for that event as a council?
I believe we
Or
provided.
did they require it?
Other than the in-kind type of things that we did with Public Works and
Okay. Well, I suppose that's too bad, because if we had, then
That was all reimbursed?
That was a different kind of an event, yeah.
I know Ragbri reimbursed for paid back.
Everything was paid.
Okay. I was trying.
And I do recall from our budget discussion this year about talking about that. If it's sort of a locally grown nonprofit event, festival, that sort of thing, that we want to be supportive of that. Certainly the economic input is helpful to the city, but the type of outside of Waverly activity that came in would be expected to reimburse the city.
And this is, I guess, where I see the distinction here is this is a one-time, even though it's the second time in 3 years. It's more of a one-time event as opposed to an ongoing contribution, which is a year after year like we did with Heritage Days and the Senior Center. And I know in the past we have given to we've given some money support in other places, like when they built the Veterans Post, we gave money there and didn't put anybody on the board with that as part of the building of that.
I think Dan McKenzie was on that board.
Is he on board for building?
If I was, I never attended a meeting.
I don't recall having to
Right.
But, so I guess that's where I see a distinction on that. As far as amending the budget, we do that every year. We have to do that in June anyways, because there are little things that come up every year that we have to make adjustments to what our published budget is. So this is not a big deal in terms of that, as far as adding that to that end of the year thing. It would have been nice if we knew ahead of time in January when we were doing the budget February to have put it in. But
I too am supportive, and I mean, I'm just trying to, get clarification on, can we do this now, and how do we avoid having these questions arise in the future?
And I would say my biggest concern is the transparency of the money. I mean, I would really like to know, I mean, I seem to recall you said that last time there was a fair amount of, I don't know if I want to say profit that was generated by the convention that came back into our community. And I don't know if that profit is going to come back to the community. I don't know if we need to be, you know, putting this $5,000 in when there's extra money that's going to be coming back. All I would like to see is some more of that transparency of where the money is going. And I know last time you said that it is traditional not to share that information because some cities lose money and some cities make money depending on how the convention goes. But at least for our, you know, edification, it would be nice to kind of see some of those numbers and know what the money's being used for. But I think like other people, I'm still supportive of the notion, supportive of the proposal.
Okay. Any other discussion? Questions? Roll call vote, please.
Bergen.
Yes.
Drinkow.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
McKenzie. Oh,
Abstaining.
Rothy.
Yes.
Sherry.
Yes.
Scherer. Waldstein.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Motion carried.
Mayor, before Chief Opple leaves, could I make a
Yes.
quick comment?
Yes.
With Chief here, I just want to clarify a comment that I made at our last meeting concerning the Highway 3. During the time that I was sharing information on response time and indicating that we've seen a decrease based on the inability to flash the yellow lights, my comments that someone should be looking at this should not have been interpreted to suggest that Chief Opple has not done his job in that area. My comments were more directed towards city staff to hopefully carry that forward to the DOT to see if they can, now that we have data to support the original hesitation that we had, that it would impact it, to see if something can be done. So Chief, if my comments were construed by you or anybody in the public to indicate that you are not doing your job, I want to personally apologize and publicly apologize if that's the way it was construed.
I appreciate you clearing that up for us. It was not taken personally.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
You bet. Next item, Resolution 18-122, a resolution approving a plat of survey creating parcels HH and II and parcel CC and parcel CC and DD and parcel T on the 12th Street Southeast adjacent to the Cedar River Parkway for Renee Loy. And Rachel,
Yeah.
I believe you're going to enlighten us on what's going on.
You guys don't have that from that description? All right, so I am a bit of a visual learner here, so I'm just going to put this up here. All right. So Renee Loy owns two adjacent parcels, which is parcel T and parcel CC, and she'd like to separate her homestead from the rest of her land. So it happens, just to make this a little bit more confusing, that the county section line is also that property line. So I drew kind of a hashed mark that goes through there. Parcels in separate sections cannot be combined. So this plat of survey will comprise of 4 parcels instead of the 2. So here's... And I'm not saying Bill's drawing was bad. So,
you can say that, he's not here.
So Loy intends to keep the newly created parcels CC and HH as her homestead and transfer parcels DD and II to the Bakers, whom own property to the north. The parcels transferred to the Bakers will remain zoned as agricultural. However, the parcels retained by Loy will be required to be rezoned to residential R1. And this will be consistent with the existing zoning of properties just north of Loy's. The Planning Commission considered Loy's plat of survey request on August 2nd and unanimously recommended approval. So staff recommends approval of Renee Loy's request for a plat of survey creating parcels HH and II out of parcel CC and creating parcel CC and DD out of parcel T.
Okay, very good. I would entertain a motion to,
I'll move Resolution 18122, a resolution approving a plat of survey creating parcels HH and II in parcel CC and DD in parcel T on the 12th Street Southeast adjacent to the Cedar River Parkway for Renee Loy.
Second.
motion made and seconded. Council discussion.
Thank you for that explanation.
Yes, thank you, very clear.
About the
Thank you.
county issue. That was helpful.
Put you on the spot here right away.
All right.
There we go. I just asked Mr. Begelman too. I just wanted to make sure that the lot lines were going to be in a situation that they were not infringing on setbacks on anything, so that we weren't creating a setback issue with the existing buildings. And Mr. Begelman said he wasn't quite sure, but it'd be something you could just simply check on.
Yes.
On that, so.
Just to clarify, the speaker who just spoke, is your name still Pete Lampy?
Yes,
Okay, any other questions, comments? Roll call vote, please.
Drinkout.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Rafi.
Yes.
Chair.
Yes.
Waldstein.
Yes.
Bergen.
Yes.
Motion carried, 7-0. Next item, Resolution 18123, a resolution authorizing acquisition of real property for the 20th Street Northwest Phase 1A Railroad Crossing Road improvements. I'd entertain a motion and a second.
I'll move approval of Resolution 18-123, resolution authorizing acquisition of real property from Shelley, either lien or line, in the amount of $20,348.35 and expenses of sale for the 20th Street Northwest Phase 1A Railroad Crossing Road Improvements Project.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Rachel, do you have any information that you would like to give us for that one also?
Just needed that brief break. So just a little bit of background. On March 19th, the City Council passed a resolution for intent to commence the 20th Street Northwest Railroad Crossing Road Improvement Project. You guys have long names of projects here. And that was first brought to the council in April of 2017. So since then, staff has been working with property owners along that road to acquire land for the project. The city and Shelley Lean have reached an agreement for the purchase price of the property needed for the completion of this project on her parcel located at 601 20th Street Northwest. This agreement was provided in your packet. So staff does recommend approval of the resolution authorizing the acquisition of property held by Shelley Lean for the 20th Street Northwest Phase 1A Railroad Crossing Road Improvement Project.
It's a little misleading because the original acquisition was to be a little sliver of land down in the corner next to the railroad crossing, knowing that eventually we had to acquire some from Shelley for the whole 20th Street reconstruction. So that's what this is, the whole acquisition for the whole project.
Just reading through the information, it appears that it's just short of an acre that we're acquiring in total. I guess, is that in line with other right-of-way acquisitions we've done as far as square footage, price, and all of that type of thing? Or are there buildings involved? Just wondering, the price seems a little higher than normal.
I think through this whole process, consideration is given to the proximity to infrastructure and availability to readily develop the property. Is it frontage or is it in the back? And obviously this is frontage along the roadway. So
I know Bill has been very diligent about this, and so I would say that it does reflect a fair value for the property given its location.
Thank you.
Any other discussion, questions? Roll call vote, please.
Kangas.
Yes.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Rafi.
Yes.
Scherer.
Yes.
Waldstein.
Yes.
Bergen.
Yes.
Drinkow.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Next item, item number 4, Resolution 18-124. Resolution approving Wartburg College's cable access, channel operations, and production agreement. Entertain a motion in a second.
I'll move Resolution 18-124, a resolution approving Wartburg College's cable access channel operations and production agreement commencing September 1st, 2018, and ending on August 31st, 2021, for the anticipated expenditure of $27,000 per year.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Tab, would you enlighten us?
Sure. I always wondered why Leisure Services was assigned this, but I guess we'll keep on going. For the past 17 years, the City of Waverly and Wartburg College has had a mutually beneficial relationship in producing and cablecasting the public meetings over the internet and on cable TV. Up to now, it's been part of the Wartburg College Department of Journalism and Communication curriculum, and students have been a key participant in the production of the meetings for class credit. Wartburg has changed their curriculum so that students no longer need to be assigned the experience of producing a meeting at City Hall. This is due to the experiences that students can now get on campus with Wartburg College production studios and the different communications and journalism groups and activities they can involve themselves in. We met with Wartburg College IT personnel, and Wartburg College is proposing to assign the meeting production to 2 of the professional staff. This includes the experienced technician and TV production specialist to produce the public cablecast meetings. These people are good enough that they don't have to have 2 people back there all the time. They only need 1 to do the meetings. The city would pay Wartburg College $18,000 to produce the meetings, get them streamed on the internet, stored on YouTube, and put message on the message carousel. In addition, the city would pay Wartburg College $9,000 to provide professional consultation for updates of software, hardware upgrades, and supervision of installation of the new items. So the total of this is $27,000. We have budgeted about $22,000 a year for this. With the demands for more meetings, and there are more meetings now than there used to be, and more technology, we feel that getting 2 professionals for this price is a good move. The next step would be hiring a person that would work for the city, a city employee, and we think that would probably cost a lot more. We have $27,000, or we have $22,000 budgeted, and they're asking $27,000, so it would be a budget amendment. But with the increase of the franchise tax, we think we can cover the difference.
In the spirit of full disclosure, I'm just going to say right now, because IT is in my enrollment management division at the college, I'm going to recuse myself from this vote.
Very good, thank you. Any other discussion, questions for Tab?
So Tab, if one or more of our commissions or committees decided that they wanted to be televised in one or more of their meetings who aren't now, would that raise the cost to us to do this?
I'm sure we can negotiate. We've got some extra meetings built into it right now, and it would be probably something we can negotiate. They've been very open to working with us in the past.
And just to piggyback on that, I noticed in the material, Planning and Zoning is on every month, and the Utilities Board once a year. And that seems kind of unusual. I mean, there's not much parity there. Is this up to each group to decide what they want to do?
I believe the Utility Board meetings are up to 4 times a year in this new agreement. And P&Z has always been on every month.
Okay, I missed that about the
That's in the new agreement.
Okay.
Utilities is twice a year, and we've asked them to try and do 4, 1 a quarter.
We haven't asked them, but we are giving them the opportunity to be part of it.
Okay.
One of the things that came up this last weekend when we were dealing with, did some city strategic planning, was the possibility, and it's kind of in here, of creating a marketing communications position within the city to help with some of that. And we're in a 1 year, 2 year kind of process to try to evaluate that and see if it's needed. Is this possible to amend this to a 1 year contract as we look at that process?
The contract states in it that if there's changes on either side that we can renegotiate. For instance, if they decide they want to start having students do it again, then we renegotiate it.
And I know back when we were talking about the franchise, reestablishing it or continuing it, there was some thought given to expanding programming to churches, to sporting events, those type of things. This does not include anything along that line.
Right. At this time, no one's had any time to look into the programming part of things. You know, having a demonstration on how to recycle milk jugs or something like that as a video type thing. Neither one of us has had the time to do it, so we decided just to drop that right for now.
Being dropped more for lack of time to devote to it more than the college isn't interested in it.
Correct. Their lack of time, too.
Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
McKenzie?
Yes.
Rafi?
Yes.
Chair?
Yes.
Waldstein? Oh, sorry. Bergen?
Yes.
Drinkow?
Yes.
Angus?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0, one abstain. Resolution 18-125, a resolution approving to amend and adopt the new Harlington Cemetery rules and regulations. Entertain a motion, please.
I will move Resolution 18-125, a resolution approving to amend and adopt the new Harlington Cemetery rules and regulations.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Council discussion, or Tab, would you?
Sure. We've had rules and regulations for Harlington Cemetery since about 1910. We updated them several years ago and we actually have a book that has the rules and regulations from way back then. So
That was the first time they were updated since 1910, was a few years ago?
I don't think so. But they've been pretty much functional for the past several years. So in light of things are changing in the cemetery world and some things we need and some issues that were being brought up, we decided to make some suggestions on these changes. We're about 50% cremains now, and there's people that are more interested in being cremated than normal burial. So we have a new rule about maximum of 4 interments on one grave space. There are several cemeteries around the area that are starting to get cremains only grave spaces. So we want to have that option available to us. We've had some issues with vehicles off the road, and we wanted to put that specifically into the rules. And then we wanted to adjust the foundation size so we aren't butting up the foundations for the monuments right up against each other. So we have a 2-inch gap in between for each one. And then finally, there's nothing that designates the sizes and the colors of the Babyland monuments. Right now, they're all the same, but we want them all to remain the same. So we want to designate that, and that basically covers the changes.
Okay. Very good. Council discussion, questions?
Do you have a copy of the proposed regulations with you, Tab? I've got just a couple of language things on here. I'm not opposed to this. I think I think it's a good idea. Tab and I have had discussions over dinner before about providing for cremains burials that they didn't have before. I thought it was ridiculous that somebody would have to buy an entire lot just to have a burial of cremains, and they weren't able to have other family members share that. But
Doesn't sound much like dinner conversation to me.
Yeah, we have very strange dinner conversations.
So does that mean you're the reason why we did this right here?
I hope not. If you're planning.
We are open to language suggestions.
Oh, well, I just, a couple here, and I don't know if, I think what I'd like to do is just have you jot them down, and maybe we can make this change before we vote on it. Would be the appropriate way to go about it. I'm just looking at section 5, monument or memorial work, paragraph 2, you're talking about foundation requirements. I think it'd be more appropriate, since you're talking about minimum requirements, that you have section C, where that you added on the maximum size of the foundation. That should be a separate item. So what I would suggest you do is, it would say all memorial foundations constructed in Harlington Cemetery must meet the following requirements, and then you have subsection A, minimum requirements, small I, a 4-inch wash, small 2I, 12-inch pads on both ends, and then subsection B, maximum size of the foundation is the size of the owner's lot minus 4. So you've got one section dealing with minimums and then another section dealing with maximums.
Okay, I'm following you.
Okay. Just to make it simpler, so you're
I thought maybe you were going to talk about it goes from section 2 to section 4.
No.
Just that you shouldn't have a maximum requirement in the minimum requirements.
Just a little confusing.
Actually, this was pertaining to foundations, so that's how can we put them all together.
Okay, well, I understand that, but have the minimum requirements listed in one section, and
Just
then
take out the minimum.
Or you could just remove the word minimum.
Say at least
and then,
4-inch wash.
And then put the minimum in A and B. So the following requirements, then you can say a minimum 4-inch wash, minimum 12-inch pads, maximum size.
That would work too.
There you go.
You got this, Carla?
It's on the tape.
Listen to it over dinner.
That's dinner.
I just like little 2 I's and subset C, that kind of thing. So I have no problem.
Brian, I thought you were going to recommend a greater than or equal to sign.
Greater than or equal to, yeah.
I think we're ready to vote.
Okay.
Or do we need an amendment? I hope not. Do we?
I think Tab and Rod can clarify
just
the
work
line,
that out.
work it out.
We're going to renumber it too, since I do skip from 2 to 4.
Okay.
And you're not amending the resolution itself.
So, okay, any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Rothy?
Yes.
Scherer?
Yes.
Waldstein?
Yes.
Bergen?
Yes.
Drinkow?
Yes.
Angus?
Yes.
McKenzie?
Yes.
Motion carried, 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tab. Resolution 18-126, a resolution awarding the 2nd Avenue Northeast Storm Sewer Replacement 2018 project to Lodge Construction of Clarksville, Iowa. Entertain a motion.
I'll move Resolution 18-126, a resolution awarding the 2nd Avenue Northeast Storm Sewer Replacement 2018 project to Lodge Construction of Clarksville, Iowa for the bid amount of $50,390.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Mike, you have a little presentation on this?
I do think this is worth talking about because this is rather unique and talks to a bit of Waverly's history here. And so this is right at the intersection of 2nd Avenue Northeast and Cedar Lane. So if you go out the north end, take a right, you'll see the barricades up there right in the middle of the intersection. They've been there for a fair part of the summer. And situation we have is coming down 2nd Avenue. We get here by Tetros, and we have a brick storm sewer. So this is the only location in town that I'm aware of, and I think it does continue further east. But we have a situation where it's starting to fail. And looking at the photograph, this is where they went down in the manhole and were able to take a photograph looking, I think, not sure if this is looking downstream or upstream. Pretty sure it's downstream. But you can see from the manhole here, they've already done concrete work and to repair the bottom of it. This was done before I ever got here, so it's 20-plus years ago. We think that this storm sewer may be upwards of 100 years old, maybe back to around teens or 20s, somewhere in there. 42 inches in diameter, and what I'm going to do is zoom in. Yeah, it shows up pretty good here. So you can see these clay tile, clay bricks that in the photograph here, they're failing. And from what I've learned is that these are hollow, not solid. And so in a storm sewer, you get a lot of sand, a lot of grit, maybe you get seal coat chips and other stuff in there, and you get a lot of scour that occurs in the bottom, and certainly that makes sense why you see the concrete here, and then I think what you're also seeing up here is some more concrete. But these are not easy to repair, and we have soil that's washing into the bottom through where these tile have broken and disintegrated. We've tried to do the repair. We've tried to expose the outside of it and slip sheet metal down underneath to try to kind of seal up where the soil and sand is migrating into the storm sewer. We thought we had it taken care of. The sinkhole and the failure reappeared, and there is no really good way to patch this. Again, this is a running bond pattern, and there's no good way to go in there and try to cut it and create a clean patch. And we think that once we would start trying to do that, it would just kind of migrate on us, and we'd be chasing it upstream, downstream from where this hole is. Additionally, we just don't have a really good confidence level that any patch from the outside is going to work. And we don't have any volunteers that want to go down in there and try to do it from inside. So we also think OSHA might kind of frown upon that too. So our most economical option was really to look at replacing it at this point. And so in order to get it done before winter sets in, and because if we start having failures during the winter, then it's going to be like that all winter long. And if it grows in size, then instead of having a couple barricades in the middle of the road, we're going to look at shutting this whole intersection down.
Can I just ask a question about the geography? Is this picture going straight down?
No.
Or is this taking it's horizontal?
Horizontal.
Okay.
Yeah. So we get and do this. I intend to save artifacts because these are actually curved.
Yeah.
To kind of build. I mean, I think that given the time it was done with it's all handwork, so it's.
So the sinking is happening at the manhole, where the manhole cover was? Or where's the sinking happening?
Right, it's a failure that's in the middle of the pipe somewhere.
In the middle, okay.
Yeah, and if it was near the manhole, then there's a chance that we might be able to fix it and patch it, but when you're, and this failure's near the manhole, but there's other failures that are 75 feet away from it. So it's in multiple locations that it's starting to show up.
So how many feet of this do you think are going to have to be repaired?
That we're going to go, we have it shown from the manhole to the head wall. And so those are two structures. So it's everything in between these two fixed points. So it's about 240 feet in length.
So Mike, you're saying that to replace it, you're going to tear all this brickwork out and replace it?
Yes. Yep. It'll be a modern reinforced concrete pipe.
And when you're doing that, you're going to be shutting down pretty much that intersection, or will traffic be able to get through there in any way?
We're going to stage it, so it'll be different sections at different times, and we'll make sure that people are aware of that.
Does that mean that the road will be open most of the time, or, like at least one lane for people getting through? Or are we going to be diverting kind of Cedar Lane all to have to go north?
So when they're working on the east section here, Cedar Lane can come up to and use 2nd Street. And then when they're getting into this stretch here, Cedar Lane should be able to come over. And so there may be a brief period of time where Cedar Lane is shut down, and so then the traffic will have to go north, and we'll make sure that there's road closed ahead signs like Brown Lane.
Because, we didn't have enough construction going on in town.
I know, we were really hoping that the patch would work and that we could, get through the winter, that we were looking at, amending the Cedar Lane plans, the project that's going to occur, starting after July 4th of 19. We were looking and hoping about being able to address the storm sewer pipe at that time, but the failure showed up again, and the sinkhole in the street showed up again.
If I'm understanding the calendar of what you've laid out here, the construction would start right after the Firemen's Convention, so we wouldn't impact those.
Yeah, we think we can work around that, yeah.
Thank you.
So Mike, I got a question about the 3 bids. Can we talk about those for a second? It seems like there's quite a variance on some of the items in these 3. How do we account for that? I mean, doesn't that seem kind of odd?
We because of the short time frame and stuff, we reached out to, I think it was in the neighborhood of a dozen contractors. We ended up with, I don't have the exact numbers, but probably half of them took bid documents out and 3 of them submitted bids. So we think that the Lodge Construction has a very good bid here. The high one, again, they may just be throwing a bid out to see if it sticks, if they're the only one to submit. But the one in the middle is also a pretty solid bid, pretty good bid. So we've worked with Lodge Construction before. We're confident in their ability to do the work.
Well, the low bid makes sense. It just seems strange to me that for the same items, the numbers are so radically different in some cases. It just seems odd to me that would be the case.
This is another project that it wasn't previously budgeted, so we're going to amend it back in.
It looked like my checkbook.
Pete.
Yes, Pete Lampe once again. Just Mike can come back up and explain it. You've got this going to be a repair from the manhole to the existing head. How is that going to affect it? I know it's in the planning for redoing of Cedar Lane, which I don't know. I've seen those plans for a long, long time. Is that going to be just to the head where they'll be able to extend to it, or is it covering out far enough?
So the Cedar Lane project was going to install storm sewer pipe from the head wall going to the river. So the head wall...
You'll be able to extend from this point?
Yeah, we're leaving the head wall in place, so this is going up to the head wall. We're going to do it in such a way that we can actually remove the head wall and continue with the pipe, or we can leave the head wall in place and simply go from there to the river. If you go out there, the head wall is near a utility pole. You might kind of scratch your head like, what in the world is this structure here? And it's where the original storm sewer stopped, and then at some point they added on to it and carried it maybe another 50 feet or so. Cedar Lane plans call for removing and relaying that to extend it because Cedar Lane is going to be straightened out. The bend is going to be straightened. So they have no effect on each other.
Okay. Any other questions, discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Scherer.
Yes.
Waldstein.
Yes.
Bergen.
Yes.
Drinkow.
Yes.
Angus.
Yes.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Rafi.
Yes.
Motion carried, 7-0. Resolution 18-127, a resolution approving the airport manager agreement and airport fixed base operator, or FBO, agreement with Sweeter Aircraft Services Incorporated for the Waverly Municipal Airport. Entertain a motion, please. Motion and a second.
I would move Resolution 18-127, a resolution approving the airport manager agreement and an airport fixed-base operator FBO agreement with Sweeter Aircraft Services Incorporated for the Waverly Municipal Airport.
Mike?
Second.
Yeah. Thank you. Motion made and seconded. Mike, will you fill us in?
Well, I'll get started with this. There was the Airport Commission gave consideration to interviewing airport managers, FBOs, and we reached out to the state of Iowa. They helped us with a mass mailing that would help get the word out that the city was soliciting proposals for the airport manager and airport FBO. We had a committee that was formed to review those proposals, and this is where I'm going to turn it over to Dennis Hansen, who's the chair of the Airport Commission, and let him come on up here and kind of fill you in on that process that took place, and introduce the selection that the Airport Commission made.
Good evening, council members and mayor. So the Airport Commission appointed a interview committee to conduct interviews with the two requests that we received proposals from, myself and Vaughn, and then we also had Mayor Dean sit in and Mike sit in for those two interviews. We conducted the interviews. We had some follow-up questions after that, which we got answered, and then at the earlier this month at the August Airport Commission, the Airport Interview Committee recommended entering into agreements with Sweeter Aircraft Services for both the FBO, which stands for Fixed Based Operator. They kind of handle the day-to-day fueling, aircraft movements, that type of aircraft rental, aircraft maintenance. And then the separate agreement for airport manager, which would manage the facilities. I believe the FAA has given us some direction to break up that agreement into two parts. One being an airport manager to manage the building facilities, and one to manage more of the operational aircraft, rental, maintenance, fuel sales, and that type of thing. And so the interview committee recommended entering into agreements with Sweeter Aircraft Services. The Airport Commission unanimously approved that recommendation to come to you, to the City Council, for approval. Sweeter Aircraft Services comes with a long history of operating in the general maintenance of aircraft. They'll be bringing 2 aircraft mechanics and an avionics shop up here to Waverly. And along with that, they'll have aircraft rental. And so it was unanimously approved to recommend that to the City Council for approval. Do you have any questions?
I'm just curious, have they managed other airports our size? And what was it about them that made you decide to pick them over the usual manager that you've had?
Sure. Ironically, Irv Sweeter started up here in 1980? 81, working at the Waverly Airport and working and managing it through 86? 86. And then went to Waterloo down there, and so he's returning, hopefully, is our recommendation. So down in Waterloo, he runs Sweeter Aircraft Services that does general aircraft maintenance on all types of aircraft. Single, twin engine, any types of repairs, engine overhauls, and then also has a fully licensed FAA avionics shop. So you can take your radios if you want the newest, latest, greatest, glass panels for your airplane. He can install them. He can do the ADS-B conversion for your transponders that are required here shortly. IFR certifications on your instrument panel that are required, I believe, every 2 years. And so he's been around for a long time down in the Waterloo area. likes the idea of moving back to the Waverly area. We interviewed both he and the current FBO manager, and they're both very good candidates. But initially, the process started when we started with a survey, and that led us to investigating opportunities for our options. And that's why we put it out for a request for proposal through the Iowa DOT Aviation with their assistance, and we received the 2 proposals and then started the interview process.
Thank you.
Yeah.
When you look at this agreement compared to the existing one, are there any material changes other than maybe dollar amounts, that type of thing?
Dollar amounts, I think we're currently in the $56,000 range.
Yeah, this starts out as like a pretty close to a net $7,000 savings. Part of it's the way it's structured. There is a structural change to this that, as Dennis mentioned, the FAA is now mandating that these actually be separate agreements, where Waverly and a lot of other Iowa airports had them as a combined agreement. They want the manager and the FBO as separate, but they can still be the same entity. As a point of order, I do need to point out some adjustments, final adjustments that were made. And one of them is that in your agreements, the language has been switched from lease to agreement.
Use the microphone, Mike.
What?
We can't hear you.
Is the standing one working? Is that easier for you, Mike? Oh.
Okay, I'll get to holding it. We did another review of it, and we discovered that lease is probably not the appropriate language. Just want to head it off before Rodney pointed it to us. So, and then additionally, under the FBO, it is Sweeter Aircraft Services, but per Irv Sweeter's request, the manager agreement will be a separately named company, Waverly Air Services, Inc. And Irv, why don't you come on up?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Any questions?
I'm hearing you say that the proposed new contract is going to be $1 saving to the city. Is that correct? Are we going to save something making the switch? Part of my question is, has the city been unhappy with Cedar Valley Aviation, which we've had for 15 years? I'm kind of curious to know how that's been going.
Sure, I'll address both your questions there. There will be a savings. I think Mike indicated about $7,000 per year initially. And that savings, as our previous contracts had escalation amounts in them, so does this one. But the basis for which we start at is $7,000 lower. Your second question in regards to Cedar Valley Aviation, they've been with us for 15 years under a 5-year contract that is renewed, I believe, twice. And at certain points in a city and organization, businesses, you look at your agreements and your contracts and those services provided, and I think it is prudent upon those people to look at what other opportunities are out there to make sure we are looking after the city's dollars as best we can and spending them most effectively. And so that is what brought the initial request for proposal, to see what options we had out there. And that's why we went that way.
Thank you.
Yep.
Does the name change have any financial implications for the city?
Well, I'd like to thank you for going through the process of collecting bids. I think we've been very satisfied with Cedar Valley Aviation, but it's always nice to just make sure we're doing due diligence and being responsible with the funds of the people of Waverly. So it's nice to know that we are able to, do a little savings and get as good of, if not better, service. So thank you.
I have received a couple phone calls from interested people from the airport or that to use the airport. Is there anyone here that wished to speak to? Hearing none. Roll call vote, please.
Waldstein.
Yes.
Bergen.
Yes.
Rankel.
Yes.
Angus.
Yes.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Rafi.
Yes.
Share.
Yes.
Motion carried. Next item, Resolution 18-128. A resolution approving the Federal Aviation Administration grant agreement for federal assistance for the engineering, design, and bidding of the airport runway 29 extension project at the Waverly Municipal Airport. Entertain a motion, please.
I'll move Resolution 18-128, a resolution approving the Federal Aviation Administration grant agreement for federal assistance of $137,637 of eligible expenses for the engineering, design, and bidding of the Airport Runway 29 extension project at the Waverly Municipal Airport.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Council discussion, questions? Mike, do you have anything you wish to add to this?
I'll just offer that the FAA is an agency that requires a lot of head scratching at times because this is allowing us to get reimbursed for money that we've expensed. And if you've been following the saga of the airport for the past few years, like with property acquisition, the city has to expense it before we can enter into agreement for reimbursement. So we've been expensing it for the design. This now allows the FAA to reimburse the city.
Thank you.
And it looks like we can only get reimbursed for 90%. That's the federal. So I assume that this, like 137, is like 90% of the costs for just the McClure design services?
Just for the design services, yes.
Okay. And in the end, we'll end up getting like 90% of all the expenses, just a little bit at a time.
We'll go through this whole process all over again for the construction of the runway extension.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Bergen.
Yes.
Rankel.
Yes.
Angus.
Yes.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Rafi.
Yes.
Share.
Yes.
Waldstein.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Next item, reports from boards and commissions. Planning and Zoning Commission minutes, June 7th, 2018. Entered into record. Monthly financials, June 2018, and also July of 2018. Entered into record, Gulf Commission minutes, July 12th, 2018. Into record. Staff comments. Tab.
The Dog Days of Summer dog swimming event was postponed because it was raining cats and dogs today.
So when's it gonna be? When is it?
It's going to be tomorrow, Tuesday, August 21st, same time, 5:30 to 7:30, and it costs $5 per dog. Hope to see you all there.
It'll be a doggone good time.
Cats are free.
I think we better adjourn.
Yeah, it's your food, probably.
If your cat wants to swim, I'm sure he'll.
Any other staff comments? City Council comments.
I would like to remind people that this Saturday, freshmen move in at Wartburg, and classes will be starting soon. It's always great to have all of these new faces in Waverly, and let's try to be warm and welcome and encourage them to enjoy their time here at Waverly.
Okay. Any other council comments?
Yeah, I just want to make one comment, and that, I want to thank all of the people and sincerely thank all of the citizens who took the time and the effort to, make their voices heard about the lane situation. And I truly appreciated the comments that they had in the discussions and the questions of those people who really had, put some real thought into what they felt was best for the city of Waverly. And I think that sometimes we kind of lose track of that we're all working toward that goal, that we all want to have what's best for the city. And did we just have a fire alarm go off?
They're afraid of more edits on something.
I guess so. Well, I just sum it all up in a couple of words. I just want to thank everybody for all their participation in this. That's what makes small communities really great.
If I could piggyback on that, not to repeat what you said, but just to react to one of Matthew's comments, for the citizens out there, we all have our telephones and emails publicly available on the city site. And I get phone calls pretty regularly and I get emails pretty regularly. So I just want to, let people know who don't know, please feel free to contact me. And like I say, all of the other information for other council members is available on the city website as well.
And if they don't have the internet, they can call me.
My comment would be kind of prelude to Brian's comment that school's starting this week, and so kind of a word of caution for motorists and people traveling around town that kids are going to be excited to be getting back to school. They're going to be using crosswalks, and you have young drivers heading off to high school as well. So just be a little extra cautious this week as we get going into a new school year and start rolling. And a big football game Friday night, kind of Ag Bowl.
Thursday
Thursday night, yes.
Other council comments?
Again, I too would like to thank folks that took the opportunity leading up to the decision on Bremer Avenue as well as tonight for the courage, I guess, to voice their opinions. And as Heidi Soheim indicated, I think if we could all be a little more flexible in how we accept those comments, it'll certainly help the dialogue within the community. So I would encourage everybody to take her words to heart, and there's usually never a perfect answer to anything. It's usually a combination of people's thoughts and opinions, and speaking for myself, and I think I can speak for most of the council, we do listen to the community. It just may not always vote the way you want us to, but we do listen to the community.
Just a word of appreciation to about 40 of our citizens who showed up last weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, for 13 hours of water torture. No, it was, in fact, it was a good process. Long-range planning, maybe one or two thought it was water torture, but it's a lot of work to go through a process like that, and I was really impressed, not only by the number of folks who took the time to do that, but the quality of the input, and I think it'll be incumbent on civic leaders, including council, to make sure that what was recommended doesn't end up on the shelf and never come back off. So just salute some of our citizens for that. I think that was a good show of civic engagement.
And I guess to add to that, there were comments tonight made about people wanting to have more open lines of communication, and that certainly was a theme that came out of our strategic planning sessions. So I think we have some really good ideas about how to streamline the messaging that the city does and improve input and opportunities for citizens outside of these council meetings to give their input. So we'll be working on that pretty diligently over the next 6 months or so.
And just in case there were any rumors that came out of that, we are not actually planning to dredge the river and build an island in the middle of the Cedar River and do some really weird things.
If there weren't rumors before, there will be now.
You opened up another can.
If you want to know,
Call Tab Ray
if
about
you,
that.
if you want to know what the rumors were, you should call Ann.
Any other council comments? Ann, do you have anything this evening?
No, just thanks for having me. And I failed to mention that I am a part of the downtown community. I have a retail store downtown, but I also have 7 apartments. And so some of those tenants have little families. So the 3-lane versus 4-lane, I know it's kind of divided our community, but for me personally, I'm just excited about the road opening up. I am so excited about having Bremer Avenue open and the things that are in store for us with the Waverly Historical Lofts. Was disappointed the fire convention couldn't be on Bremer Avenue, but it'll be close, so I think that's a celebratory opening of our road. So it's going to be a great year ahead of us. So.
Very good, thank you. I would like to piggyback a little bit on the comments on the strategic planning session. Well over half of the participants, citizen participants, had never taken part in one of those before. And that was encouraging to know that there are a lot of people interested in the future of our community. And I've been going through strategic plannings from 2013 and on up, and I think we're going to have some work to do to get those combined and see to it that a lot of those things are implicated. I would like to take this opportunity also to welcome the returning teachers in the school systems in the area, and also the new teachers. I understand there is a sizable number of new teachers, not only for Wartburg, but for the school systems around. So, and school starts Thursday. There was a timely article on the Channel 7 News at 5:30 and 6 this evening about school bus and how to, motorists and school buses that need to, one shall not interfere with the other one. And also touch on Ann Segerman's point a little bit. Some of the Facebook and emails that I got talked about with the 3-lane shopping downtown and with the new construction, or the completion of the new construction. But I would certainly encourage, don't make the downtown merchants hostages of what's going on. We need all of you to return back to, get back downtown and patronize our local merchants and move this whole community forward again. And with that, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say yes?
Yes.
Motion carried, we are adjourned.